Today, I'll show you how to crochet Puffy Alize, which you can crochet without hooks or any tools, and show you how to crochet inward stitches. They're easy to crochet, and you can use the skill to crochet beautiful pieces, switching between inward and facing stitches, or even alternating between them. For starters, I'll remind you how to do frontal ones. And then we'll move on to inward. I have a video for those who haven't seen front-facing stitches. Please go watch it. But I will remind you in this video so that it's easier for us to switch and crochet inward loops. Follow the link in the description and grab your step-by-step guide on how to earn your first $1,700 crocheting by tomorrow with the help of my own crochet techniques. A simple model you already see. It's important, of course, for stitches to remain straight and not twisted. This pattern needs to have stitches lying flat. Because there are a lot of other patterns which are also on my channel. There are patterns that require for stitches to be twisted. In this case, stitches will remain lying flat. This goes for loops laying below as much as for our working thread. So, edges we usually tie with the facing, meaning the bottom loop of the working thread we bring through the bottom, as if putting over the stitch of the piece. And tie it in the same way. Stitches must be straight on the working thread as well, not twisted. Sometimes the pattern will change, which can also be used. But when crocheting this pattern, the stitches must remain lying flat. It's important to straighten and lay them out. Well, I've already missed one stitch, as you see. This must be considered. It's not wise to rush. It's important to pay attention to detail, otherwise you'll be doing double the amount of work. Since you turn over and check if the stitch was missed, you'll have to start over. Otherwise, your creation will lose its intended look. You can crochet either inward or facing. Of course, facing is easier than inward. You'll see right now. Of course, in order to make such original patterns with this type of yarn, you'll have to know how to crochet inward as well. So, we insert at the bottom and again the same for the edge stitch. Now, I'll show you how we crochet facing stitches. We lay out our working thread over the future product. Actually, not over, but at the top of it, so you can see all the stitches. And now, the inward stitch we have to do the following way. So, now we pass through the stitch not at the bottom like we did with frontal, but at the top. Meaning our working stitch will go into the product stitch at the top. You can also use this approach for when you're using knitting needles, and we always use inward to tie our edge stitch. For example, when we work with facing stitches, we take it off without tying. Here, we tie through regardless. That's why two edge stitches can be tied with facing stitch or inward stitch. So, use the stitch that's not twisted, carefully so it can be on the working thread. And bring through at the top. Actually, for comfort, you can put the working thread over your product. This way, we can see every stitch on the product and every stitch on the working thread. We kind of just bring it inside, meaning when we put this working thread over the product, we simply bring it through the top. And then we see that the inward turns out. This isn't convenient, and we have to unfold it like this. When we put it over, then simply take it through. Not through the bottom, but the top. And really, there's nothing hard here. Same way, insert all stitches. But if the working thread lies at the top, then we might confuse it and insert the stitch from the bottom. And if you get distracted, then you might mix up the stitches. But when you put the stitches over your working thread, you'll understand that you're working with inward stitches. So the stitch on the working thread, insert it through the thread of your product. Same with the following. And we're crocheting our stitch. Now we turn over to the other side and we see that we've crocheted the inward row. You see? Here you should straighten everything nicely. Keep all stitches straight. We see out inward row. You could tie 2, could tie 3, and generally they're 1 or 1. Then let's say you'll have garter stitch. If we look at crocheting with needles, the inward and facing stitches are very similar. Let's crochet one more row. Once again, put working thread over your product. Let's take the first stitch of the working thread and bring through the loop on the product piece. Next stitch, we bring through the same way. This is the moment where you put the working thread over your product, which tells you that you're crocheting inward rows. This way, it's easier to do, and you won't mistake the loops. You can alternate, meaning you see the kind of pattern you're getting. It's absolutely identical as if you used knitting needle. Facing and inward loops are very similar. And as you know, if you're able to crochet with knitting needles, then you can crochet facing and inward with a garter stitch. You can crochet a rice stitch. So, we crochet 1 facing and 1 inward. Generally, having the skill to work with facing and inward stitches allows you to create various patterns you want. This means that this thread is very convenient, it's easy and fast for crocheting, and you can create various products. What kind of products? You could make a blanket, pillow, cases, cardigans, hats, slippers, rugs, etc. A large list of things you can create and exactly how to create them, which patterns to follow and thread to use, you can find in my catalog in the description below this video. And lots of other useful and interesting information can be found in the catalog. Crochet with joy!